Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Blue Tinted Glasses. It's Sunday morning, which means it's time for Good Morning Foxes. Leicester City off the back of a FA Cup defeat against Manchester United. We're going to talk about it all right now. There is a lot to talk about from that game, actually. There is a lot. But before we get into it, let's talk with our guests. I'm going to come to the newbie on the channel. First video for him today. Michael, mate, what's going on?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you very much for having me on. Really looking forward to discussing the game. It's the first time I've done a podcast with a bunch of football fans, so I'm interested to see where I can fit into this and hear some opinions from some Leicester fans as well.
Lovely stuff. I did stumble across one of Michael's videos on his YouTube channel, so at the end I'll tell everybody where that is, so people can go and have a watch of that. Rich, familiar face now on Sunday mornings, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad, considering, we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people care too much about getting knocked out of the FA Cup this year. I don't think. Even on the watch along on Friday, me and Manny, I was a bit numb to it. I was like, well, it is what it is. So, Manny, I'll come to you now, mate. What shirt are you wearing today?
Today is Flamengo from Brazil.
Nice.
In a previous life, I went to see them live a long time ago at Maracanã, which is a pretty awesome place to watch football, to be fair. By the way, morning question. Do we have a BTG rule on facial hair? Because Michael's moustache is magnificent, and I think all of us should have to grow one just like it.
This is about a year's worth of growth here. This stumbled across from a Movember, and I was like, you know what? If it's sort of somewhat in fashion, right? And if I don't take the opportunity now, then I'll never get the opportunity to. So I recommend, boys, hop on whilst you still can.
Mate, it'll take Locks about 7 years to grow one of those.
Oh no, mate! Genuinely, like my face would look like yours, Manny, after a year. That's as far as it would get in a year. Yeah. So, yeah, honestly. But yeah, right. Let's look at some comments before we get into it. So, Elise Ndidi is back. Kunal says, good morning. Common Boy says, Maguire was more offside than Mbappe. Gray said, morning, guys. The reason that goal stood was Fergie was doing the VAR. Morning all from Andreas and Fossab as well. Morning, lads. Morning to you, mate. All right, then. Let's get into it. So, I want to start with this man right here. He is on the thumbnail as well. Wilfred Ndidi. Now, I'm not going to come straight to you, Manny, because I know you've got an obsession with Wilfred Ndidi. But Rich, I'll start with you, mate. How good was he? Because I thought it was just obvious. It was just so obvious the difference he made to the team being back in it.
Absolutely, mate. I think I'll be honest, I'm a bit Natalie and Imbruglia about him being back in that game, to be honest, because I was so panicking about him getting injured. But then you've got the flip side of he needs minutes to get up to speed. So it was the right game to put him in. He lost the ball a lot. Let's curb our, he did what Wilf does, where he can't pass simple balls sometimes. But that was a small blight on the performance, because in general he was much better. So my best friend's actually a Man U fan, and he was at the game and he offered me to go, and I was like, no, I can't do it. I'm going to end up getting, I'm going to get absolutely battered by a load of Man U fans around. If we score, I'm not going to be able to not cheer. And when they score, and he was messaging me, like we were winding each other up through the game, and I kept saying, mate, now indeed he's back. You're going to see a different team, I think, especially with Hermansen back as well, and getting a few minutes now, although he didn't have a great game. But I'm very, very excited to see him back, and the defensive aspects. I think we're just definitely going to concede less goals now, so that's what we need.
Well, you'd hope so. I mean, Michael, I think earlier in the season, like, there were people who weren't too sure on Ndidi. I think maybe it's because of where Cooper was playing and the position he was being played in. But I mean, since the 2 games he played under Ruud, and now this Manchester United game as well, so the 3rd game, I do believe we look like a different team with him in it, and he offers so much defensively that it's kind of as Manny would call him, a non-negotiable. But yeah, what did you make to him, Michael?
It's going to be so instrumental if we do stay up, him 100%. I think what was so noticeable, and you could see the game kind of changing at this point, was when he did get subbed off. because I personally don't rate Winks at all. I think he is a championship player. He's so wasteful on the ball. Unlike what you were saying, Rich, I actually thought Ndidi holds the ball really well. I think some of the more simple passes are what he does well, just keeps the ball ticking over, allows us to hold the ball a lot better. Yeah, it was a shame that he could only last 60 minutes, but I'm glad he didn't get injured. And I think, for the remainder of the season, he is going to be so pivotal to us staying up 100%.
Yeah, I hear what you're both saying, actually, Michael and Rich. I think Ndidi's he's susceptible to an absolute shocker, either giving the ball away from a simple 5-yard pass or something like that. But when he's not under pressure, or even when he is under pressure, I suppose he is able to distribute the ball quite well at times. But Manny, talk to me, mate. Want to hear from you now, mate. You are obsessed with the man. We always said on the watch along, you're obsessed with Big Willie. So talk to us, mate. What did you make to his first game back?
If you're not all obsessed with Big Willie after Friday, then there's something wrong with you. I mean, the difference was astronomical between having him inside and not. And the second he went off, you could almost up to the second he went off, the game completely changed. And I think just to focus on one little point about his passing. Now, you and I have actually done some homework into his passing stats because we did it this week together. And he's not that far off other people. I think the difference is you're expecting Wilf to duff the pass, so you really notice it when he does. But how many times did Winks miss a ball this week? How many times did Samare as well? A lot of our players are duffing passes. The clear difference is Wilf is winning the ball, making challenges, disrupting. You can see at some points they just don't want to go near him because he's just going to smash into them and win the ball. He is absolutely crucial to the way that we want to play because it's not only what he does, it's what he allows the people around him to do. The confidence in him, Booba can play more advanced, and we saw Booba winning the ball high up against Tottenham, so we know that that's a useful attribute to have from Booba. But Wilf is that glue. He's that security. He's the actual experienced player that we really need. We saw the Andy Townsend for TNT gave him man of the match in the home game against West Ham. It was the last game that we won. We got a point against Brighton. He played in that game too. We've seen what happens with Wolf. We've tried Skip. We've tried other combinations. We've tried Winks. It's at the Premier League. Physicality, speed, interceptions, blocks. It's not just that. He helps his centre-backs out. He just does so much for the team. Keeping him fit was absolutely crucial. I don't know about you guys, but just before he got taken off, when he went down and he was lying down on the pitch, I was just gobsmacked thinking, that's our relegation hopes. If he doesn't get up, we're down. If he gets up, we've got a fighting chance.
Yeah. I mean, we saw the partnership again of Samare and Ndidi. That's the partnership we saw in the first two games under Rude. Michael, do you think that is the best partnership at the moment, the best combination? Because, I think Winks he's been poor, hasn't he? I mean, you said it yourself. He's been absolutely poor recently. Yeah,
that's the two we have to start with. And I'm hoping that Ndidi's experience can drag Samare through some games because I still think at 25 he's a little bit raw. I think he can get lost in games a little bit. The Spurs game was a prime example of him being the star of the show. But then you look at Everton and, I mean, it's probably quite disheartening how the game sort of panned out. But after about 10, 15 minutes, you almost looked a bit disinterested. I think a lot of the players were the same. 100% has to be our midfield too. I just don't want to see Skip get on the pitch at all. Really, and Winks, he's in there, but I think he gives the ball away way too much. And I noticed it a lot at the start of the season, more under Cooper than Ruud van Nistelrooy. He just takes way too many pop shots as well, which is like we're on the edge of their box. If we just keep moving it, a chance will eventually arise. But unfortunately, he decides to shoot over the bar every time.
Rich, Harry Winks, mate. I mean, a lot of people did warn us, actually. Last season, of course, he had a great year in the Championship under Enzo Maresca. Was that just his level, do you think, Rich? Because he has been poor. I mean, I keep seeing people say he's probably QPR's highest assist maker this season with the two clangers he gave them in the FA Cup.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's also an element of what Manny said, in the opposite of we're all fans are guilty of having their favourites and having their ones that they don't like, and then it becomes a confirmation bias of, see, look, they've done that, and then you ignore the good things they're doing. You constantly, like JJ, he was prime that at the start of the season. He was not at fault for a lot of those goals. It was the tactics, and there was, he was being targeted by some of the best wingers in the Premier League, and we're going, JJ is crap. And it's like, well, actually, hang on a minute, what were the tactics that are leading to him being overlapped and being, left? And obviously he was making mistakes, but counter to that point then of what Manny's just said about Ndidi, I think it's because you expect him to have bad passes, so you notice it, or no, he just can't pass the ball 5 yards sometimes, and so it's I think there's an element of that, and Winks has been so poor this season, and when you compare it to the levels he was last year, you can't help but go, well, there you are then, that is his level. It is the Championship where he's got a bit more time on the ball, he is a little bit more space, he has got the options to thread it through more, and the Premier League is just a lot faster and a lot higher press, and so unfortunately he's probably hit his ceiling, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Manny, Michael said just no Skip, right? Anyone but Skip. I mean, you agree with that more than anyone, don't you, mate?
Yeah, I've been saying it since the start of the season, haven't I? Skip and Winks. It's the same old thing. It's not me being some kind of smart genius about this. The Premier League is the fastest league in the world. These two guys are 5'9". They're not the most mobile in the world. They don't have that physicality. Yeah, they can pass short range. But look at the numbers. Wolf's short range passing and there's a couple of % difference. It's minimal. Nothing in it. But on the flip side of the game, Skip is supposed to be a defensive-minded midfielder. Well, he doesn't make challenges. Remember the Newcastle game? He made, I think, was it 0 or 1 challenge in the entire game when we lost 4-0? The guy doesn't make challenges. He doesn't make tackles, which is why he's not getting any game time. So nobody wants Skip. Even the guy that wanted to sign Skip doesn't want Skip.
That's true. That's true.
It becomes a straight choice then, doesn't it, between the other three? So you've got Winks, you've got Ndidi, you've got Soumare. Clearly, 2 of them are physical, 1 of them is not. But if Winks keeps... Every time we discuss Winks, everybody says to me, he's a good passer. How's his passing against QPR? How's his passing against Man United? He gave the ball away, I think I counted 5 times in 32 minutes. That's 5 times should be 3 Premier League games, 4 Premier League games. He did it in half an hour. So I just don't see the value of having him. Like I say, he's an armchair player. It's not really about Championship or Premier League. It's about league style. If you press the defensive midfielders, it's not a league for him. If they give you a time and they just want to sit back, like they might do in Serie A, somewhat in Spain, then that's more the league for you. Championship perhaps too. But Premier League is absolutely not for you. They are on you in a second. They don't give you time. Nobody gets time in the Premier League. And he needs time to perform.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all agree, really, with the Ndidi Soumare. Another problem with Ndidi is you just know that he could quite well play the next 2 games and then pick up another injury and he's out again. But Manny, your prediction for him not being on it in his first game back was wrong, wasn't it? I mean, he was on it. He was on it all right.
This is about the 3rd time, I think, Wilf's got an injury around Christmas, January. And this is his 8th season for us. And he's been out for 6 to 9 weeks or something roughly like that. And every previous time it's taken him a little bit of time to get up to steam. And I guess I showed just the way that he went down after 57, 58 minutes just showed what an effort he put into it. He was absolutely done. But, it's one of those that I was delighted to see that instantly from minute 1 he was on it so much. So maybe they gave him a bit more time in training. Do you remember recently we brought Mads back and we were saying, was that 1 game too early? We could have played Jakob. Mads didn't look 100% on it. Well, Wilf looked 100% on it. It was just the endurance which he will build up over time. So fabulous to see. And the reason I'm smiling this weekend, despite the fact that we got knocked out of the cup, is now I can see a pathway to survival. If Ndidi can play, and if I see Ndidi, Soumare and Bilal in front of them, that is a midfield trio that I very much like. That those 3 I can work with. And Caleb Okoli, which I'm sure we'll come to as well, we're starting to see a few changes that are paying off, and hopefully that will translate into our league form.
Okay, well, Michael, I want to bring the next topic to you first, mate, and it is about the wingers. If you can call them wingers, of course. So, no Fatawu. Obviously, he's got his ACL injury. That was a heartbreak earlier in the season. Steffi Mavididi can't get a game for whatever reason, whether it's performance or issues off the pitch. We don't know the ins and outs completely. And once again, the manager chose Ayew and Bobby de Cordova-Reid. Now, of course, Bobby Reid got a goal. Very fortunate with it, but he got another goal to add to his tally and his assists and all that this season. But what did you make to them two in particular? Because once again they kind of split the fan base on whether people wanted to see them or not.
I think you summarised it perfectly. You can't really call them wingers. They're not. Particularly when we came from last season, when we had Ndidi and Fatawu who would attack the fullbacks really well in the Championship. Unfortunately, they're like right at the top of our goals and assist numbers. And we shouldn't really be too, it's the word sneery, about people who are actually putting the ball in the net for us, because there's not many people on our team who will do that. But I would have loved this game or the QPR game for a real chance for Ruud van Nistelrooy to try something different. I've been a big advocate for maybe trying a 5-back because we just leak goals for fun. And I also think as we don't have wingers really available to us, a dual 10 of Bilal and Buonanotte would be fantastic, with wing backs of Justin, where he's relieved of his defensive duties and can just attack. Because again, similarly, he's quite up there with our goals and assist numbers. And I think Wayo Koulibaly potentially could be a good wing back as well. Yeah, I think we don't have wingers. I don't think Ndidi is up to the Premier League. I think he's that sort of player where he's really good in the Championship, couldn't quite make the level. Fatawu, he's out for the season. We have to adjust from that. But yeah, maybe we shouldn't be too sneery about people who put the ball in the net, because we haven't got many of those.
Well, that's very much my opinion as well, mate. I mean, people turn their nose up, like you said, Ayew at Bobby de Cordova-Reid, and I'm like, well, 4 goals for Ayew, right? And is it 3 goals now? And
really important one against Southampton.
Exactly, and de Cordova-Reid obviously got a goal against Brighton. Obviously got a goal against was it 2 assists versus Tottenham? So. They've contributed, which is why they are in the team over Stefan Ndidi. That is it at the end of the day. But Rich, talk to me, mate, because I know that you defend Jordan Ayew quite a bit from people like Manny. But talk to me about Ayew and Reid, mate.
I just played devil's advocate. I love it. No, I think the thing is, okay, so let's just dissect what was just said there about how you just said about the goal that de Cordova-Reid scored then. You said it, and I'm not like trying to call you out here, but you said it with an air of a bit of a snigger at him for he scored.
Well,
it was a lucky goal, yeah, but okay. Now if Vardy scores, like, what are you saying? He's got to be in the right
position. I'd say the same.
Okay, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. But I think a lot of fans would be more like, oh yeah, but he's got to be in the right place to score it. He's got, you know what I mean? Like it becomes a different narrative over the goal. But again,
of course,
earlier, because people have these preconceived ideas about Ayew and Bobby de Cordova-Reid, it becomes a negative slant rather than a positive slant, and that's fine. Everyone, you know what I mean? Like we all do it, by the way. No one doesn't do it. I do it, but
you do it for Wilf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't pass for toffee. But no, on a serious note, look, at the end of the day, they are obviously showing something in training. They are obviously showing something in the games that Ruud van Nistelrooy, who, by the way, as said in the past, whether he's the right manager for us or not, knows more about football than everyone in that ground will ever forget. He's forgotten more about football than everyone in that ground will ever know. So if he's seen something in training every day and he goes, right, they're putting it in, and Ndid's sulking, the other day you were saying about he's sulking because I was looking at another winger. Right, well, yeah, that it is what it is then, and that's what we're doing. And I agree with Michael. Maybe there's a change of system needed. But yeah, I don't think they're as bad as some fans think. I also don't think they're world beaters. You know what I mean? I think they remind me of Mark Albrighton, as in that sort of, just putting it in, trying, they're never going to be, it's not going to be Mahrez, but they're doing their best and they're putting it in. And I don't really think anyone can say they're not putting it in, which is obviously what a lot of, some of the other players have had levelled at them.
They try hard, but they don't enable us to play the way that Ruud van Nistelrooy actually wants us to play, which is high intensity on the front foot, because Jordan Ayew is really slow. And Bobby de Cordova-Reid similarly mostly is impressed with the intensity that he has, that he should, sorry. And it then just means that we are just one long ball over the top over Vestergaard's head before they score again, just because of that. And I do feel somewhat bad for Ruud van Nistelrooy, though. Like, the tools he's been given to do this job with are hard. You know, he's worked with really, really good talents over the years. At PSV, he had a young Noni Madueke, Cody Gakpo, Xavi Simons. At Man United, in that short spell, he was able to work with Rashford and Bruno Fernandes. And now he's working with Ayew and Bobby Decordova-Reid. It's you know, I think he's maybe a little bit naive with the team that he puts out. And I don't think the players he has can play the way he wants to play effectively, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I'm coming to Manny now, who I disagree with strongly on this subject, because he's very much of the opinion that you just have to play Mavididi no matter what, because he's quick and the others are slow. Wasteful. But yeah, but so Manny, I'll let you come back at me there, mate. I mean, you know, there is a reason that Ruud has not been picking him, and yeah, clearly there is something going on in the background as well. It looks like they may have fallen out. Apparently, he's been complaining or sulking because the club were looking at another winger. I mean, he seems like a nightmare behind the scenes, mate. Maybe that's why he's not playing.
There's been plenty of players who are a bit of a nightmare behind the scenes. It's part of your management style to try and rein them in, keep in control of them, keep them motivated, keep them part of the project. I've heard a few rumours about Steffi that he's not always the best trainer. He might be a bit late to training, likes a night out, so I hear. That may or may not be true, and maybe that's Ruud. We see in his press conferences, and he demands extremely high standards from everybody. That's what you need to win, and perhaps Mavididi off the pitch isn't delivering that. However, coming back to Cordova-Reid and Ayew, the guys that play ahead of him, guys, you need to wake up. These two are not good enough. Just because the guy scores 4 goals in a season, well, that was enough to take us down. It's not just about the 4 goals. It's about the lack of chances created. You know, a good player could have scored 8, 10 goals and created chances. By the way, Jordan Ayew's got 0 assists this season. Like, Bobby will get credit for the 2 assists against Tottenham, and rightly so. But it's easy to make assists when you're not playing against a right-back in Pedro Porro. So if you had Mavididi in the same situation, I refuse to believe that Mavididi couldn't have created a goal or scored one himself. I mean, Bobby Cordova-Reid's slightly different. He hasn't had a lot of game time. And for his game time, his actually numbers have been okay. So if you look at it a purely end product, you'd say Bobby, limited minutes, absolutely fine. But Ayew starts game after game after game. And every time we get any kind of attack down the right wing, it just gets nullified because of him. So just because he was the right place at the right time on a couple of occasions where we played the bottom 2 clubs against 10 men, we see whenever we play anybody who isn't in the bottom 3, who doesn't have 10 men, Jordan Ayew doesn't help you. Any mid-level team, any top-level team, you don't get anywhere. You know, again, a goal against Liverpool, somebody will say, but I'll point to you 20 games where he did nothing. And it's fundamentally the structure of the attack. If you harp on, this sounds like a broken record here. If you have a slow winger, it limits your options. And because we're not a possession-based team, we are inevitably going to be playing slightly on the back foot. So when we do win the ball, we need to spring on teams with accuracy, with pace, with technical ability. And Vardy, I mean, we keep saying that, you know, maybe he's like Michael Albrighton. He's not like Michael Albrighton. Michael Albrighton would get the ball in, get the ball in, get the ball in. How many times have we seen crosses for Vardy? How many times have we seen chances created for Vardy or Daka the other night? There's not many balls going in, because in order to get the ball in, you need to be pretty advanced. And we can't get high enough on the pitch because Ayew's already turned around or he's on the floor by then. So it's relative to the player that you could have. So then it becomes a case of you look at your squad options and we're back to Mavididi. I agree with what you guys say about Mavididi. He's not every week a brilliant Premier League player. Maybe it's only 1 in 3 that he really shows what his good level is. But he did, you know, again, if you want to have Ayew scores against Liverpool, who created the goal? Who beat Trent on the outside and created the goal? You know, Mavididi is capable, and I think he's just one of those players that you have to take the risk with him, that he's going to be rubbish or he's going to be brilliant.
Can you take that risk in a relegation battle, Manny? In a relegation battle?
Well, if the alternative is
someone like Nigel Pearson, you know what I mean? We go back because I know that you're a big fan of Nigel Pearson and his management style. Would a manager like Nigel Pearson have stood for it, of been playing with Steffi Mavididi regardless, just to hope that he comes up with something, even though his attitude off the pitch wasn't good enough? I don't think he would.
Nigel Pearson's not the kind of character who necessarily like Anthony Knockaert or Riyad Mahrez, because they don't track back and they don't want to work back. But
their attitude was spot on.
Well, I mean, there's only a bit rumours that Mavadidi's got an attitude or this, and it's easy to surmise when someone's on the bench. When someone's on the bench, you want them to be unhappy, right? You want them to be kicking off a bit, saying, get me on this pitch, I can make a difference, I can change it. If he's just quietly sitting there taking his money, we'd accuse him of being, he doesn't care, he's happy sitting on the bench, he'll have his cash and he'll go. Mavadidi has got 3 goals this season. I think Ayu's got 4. One of those is a penalty. So they've got the same output. Ayu's had more minutes to do that output in. Mavadidi's got 1 or 2 assists. Ayu has 0. So even on the stats per minutes, pro rata, Mavadidi's ahead of Ayu. And then when you factor in the quality of the opposition that you're playing against, Mavadidi can do it against a higher quality. Maybe not regularly, I agree. But Ayu can never do it, anywhere near regularly. It's just too old, too slow. Again, he's the guy we bring on off the bench for 20 minutes when we're trying to see a game out. He has those skills. And look, these guys are hard workers. Bobby and Jordan are hard workers. But they're 31 and 33. Again, they're too slow, too old. It doesn't help our attack. And for all of our talk about conceding goals and the rest of it, we are not scoring goals. We're not scoring enough goals. We're not scoring 2s and 3s. We can't win games because we're not scoring enough goals too. They're both problems.
I'll come to you, Michael, mate. What do you make to everything Manny has said there? Because, I mean, he's right at the end of the day that we're not scoring enough. So is that enough of a reason for Ruud to change something?
Yeah, I agree that Ayu and Bobby Decordova-Reid aren't the right players, but I'm still not 100% convinced that Mavadidi is the right player himself. I just think they're just a bad bunch of players. Like, I think collectively, and I'm not convinced that Mavadidi's to level, but I must say I'm not convinced the other two either are either.
Yeah, I mean, he's never played in the Premier League. Is there a reason for that, Rich? Mavadidi? Yeah. I mean, he got shipped out to Italy. Couldn't make it obviously at Juventus. There's no shame in that. But then obviously went to France. There were rumors that he had problems in France, and now he's here. And let's not get it twisted. Last season, he deserved a starting spot in the Premier League team at the start of this season. He didn't get it really. Actually, Cooper didn't. I mean, I think didn't Cooper play Ayu from the very start, right? So, but the moments he has had, Rich, to try and impress. Yes, he scored a couple of goals, of course, yeah, but he's not been consistent enough.
I think the difficulty is with Mavadidi, if you look at his championship season, there were so many times where, as a collective fan base, we were still, let's be honest, slating him for his end product, his choices. Yes, he did really well, and he had some really good numbers actually. But how I remember so many times where we were like, oh God, if he'd have just, if he'd have just passed it across, or rather than take the shot on or take the shot, there were sometimes his end product just wasn't ideal. But again, I think it is that there was the lower level, so he was going to have a lot more chances than in the Premier League, as we've said with Winks, as we've said with all of them. So now obviously he's gone up a league. Now let's take his supposed personality out of it, whether he's moaning or not. I agree with Manny. If you're not playing, I want them to be moaning. I want them to be annoyed. But he's obviously just not putting it in. Like, he's just not putting it in training. Otherwise, he'd be on. And to Manny's point, about wake up. We're all awake, mate. But what's the best option? And I think collectively, obviously the manager of the club doesn't think so. And I think the majority of fans agree that he's not the best option either. We look at that Tottenham game. Now, what was the one thing we said at the end? Obviously, we were winning 2-1 and everyone's gone, the dark arts, how amazing the dark arts were. Do you think Mavadidi's going to do the dark arts? I don't. I think he's going to lose it and they're going to counter us.
Whereas, sure, I just said he's good for coming on for 20 minutes to see how.
No, fair enough. Yeah, no, you did. I'll take that. But my point is that I don't think that Mavadidi is at the level that we were expecting him to be as of last season. We think that he's going to score, he's going to get all these assists, and I do take your point, by the way, Manny, that for smaller game time he has had a higher output. So there is that absolutely to take, but what is happening behind the scenes that we just aren't seeing that means he's not playing? Because you're saying, he should be fuming that he's not starting. Well, he should obviously be putting it in training then, which is the only thing I can suggest as to why he's not playing, is that he's not trying hard enough. So I don't
I'll give you that. I agree with that, because I think I saw a Mark Albrighton, I told this to Locks, I saw a Mark Albrighton podcast, he's doing the rounds recently, and Mark let it slip that his attitude isn't always right, and he needs to be, I think the word was live your lifestyle
right. Wasn't it?
Live your life right. I think you need to live your life right. Yeah. So that would indicate that perhaps, he doesn't get to bed on time, he's having a few late nights or whatever it might be. And that is the reason why he is not quite performing as well as he could do. But presumably he's not completely changed this season as he did last season. And I just don't see Bobby Cordova-Reid scoring, was it 16, 17 in the Championship, or 15, what it was last season? And again, the point remains, it's not as if we haven't tried Jordan Ayew in particular. Now, Jordan Ayew's started how many games? I'm just having a look now. He started the Wolves game, played 83 minutes. How did we do against Wolves? He started the Liverpool game where we scored. We still lost. He started the Villa game. We lost. He started the Fulham game. We lost. He started the Tottenham game where we won, although he didn't contribute that game. He started the Everton game last week. We got spanked 4-0. So it's not as if, if it was Mavididi playing in 4 or 5 games and he didn't do much, you guys would be screaming, This guy is not doing enough. You need to give somebody else a chance. Well, Jordan Ayew is starting every game. He's not doing enough. It's time for something else.
No, and this is the thing, Manny. This is what I was going to say. I do agree that there is an element of, right, well, it's not working, so change it. I absolutely agree. My point is, Ruud will know that. So what is happening to make him not do that? There must be something happening, because
there's a good question, but I'll flip it the other way. I think there's a misnomer that the manager always, of course he understands football better, but I'm not sure he understands Leicester City better than all of us hardcore fans. I mean, case in point, Danny Ward. He started Danny Ward. He clearly didn't know the history of Danny Ward. He's watching Danny Ward in training and he's seeing a decent keeper, but he didn't know the history of the club. We had it with Yannick Vestergaard. Yannick Vestergaard keeps playing every single game. Eventually he goes, okay, fine, I'll give Caleb Okoli a start. How was Caleb Okoli the other day? Finally, Ruud is getting to his best 11 by, trial and error. But again, he is finally understanding that mobility is important. It's absolutely crucial with Vestergaard, with other players. Woyo coming on at left back. I mean, I would question why Luke Thomas started over Woyo. That one doesn't make sense to me. Luke Thomas is on a free in like 5 months, isn't he, or 6 months? Is that right?
Yeah.
So, well, you've just signed a new player who can play both fullbacks, who's a quicker fullback as well. This is an ideal game to give him a start. So I don't think Ruud has been 100% perfect in his decisions, but I think every week he improves and he's getting closer to finding a point that he's happy with. Well, I'm absolutely certain that Mavididi will come back into the team soon enough. But at the end of the day, you just cannot live on the other two. That front three that we've been putting out there are 102 years old. It's just not It's just not effective enough. In the end, something is going to change. Now, my contention, actually, more than Bobby Cordova-Reid, I think Ayew needs a break. And if that means, look, I mean, we saw Bobby play right-hand side, and he was equally effective right or left, so it doesn't really matter to Bobby. Mavididi back on the left, put Bobby on the right, and let's go on.
I think that was like the most frustrating. So I think that's the most frustrating thing about the FA Cup match was the chance for us to try something completely different. And it would have been the perfect time. I don't know what Ruud's like personal skills are like. I've never met the bloke, but stick an arm round Mavididi or Buonanotte and say, do you know what? You've been somewhat frozen out. Here's your chance to put yourself back in the picture. Go out there and prove to me today. I didn't mind so much that like someone like Jeremy Monga didn't get on. We were chasing the game as we weren't 4-0 down or 4-0 up. But for players who should be potentially in our starting 11, it would have been nice to have given them the chance to at least do it. And QPR would have been also a brilliant chance to do it as well.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like you said, I don't really I'm not buying too much into the whole Jeremy Monga stuff. I thought it would have been really good to have seen him, but we're probably getting ahead of ourselves when we say he could be the answer, to keeping us
brilliant
up in the
experience,
Premier League.
right? The whole thing would have been brilliant experience for him anyway.
Of course. And I think he made he travelled. He was sat he wasn't on the bench, but he was sat in the, in that area for the QPR game as well. For the Man United game earlier in the season as well. What did you make, Michael, then, to the performance in general? Because I think once again we started well, I say once again, we didn't against Everton, but in a lot of games this season, we've started quite well. And I think that was the same in this game too.
I thought the first half was quite boring. I wasn't massively enthused by it. We obviously nicked the goal late on. And I thought we had fairly good control of the match. And it was just that turning point when Ndidi went off and we brought Winks in for me. And credit to Man United when they brought Garnacho on as well. He just absolutely ruined Justin the whole for half an hour. It was quite painful to watch, really. And if he had a bit more nous about him in front of goal, he definitely could have had a hat-trick. Other than that, you have to feel somewhat hard done by with the way we conceded the final goal. There's a wider conversation there on VAR and how it gets used or not getting used, which I'm sure we can touch on. But all in all, I think I have the same opinion as most Leicester fans, really. Happily lose an FA Cup round 4, round 5, stay in the league. I thought the exact same thing last year when we played Chelsea. I was like, this is just a distraction from us winning the championship. And we were in a bit of a lull at the time. I was like, let's just focus on what we need to be doing. Yeah, that's all I really have on it. I'm not crying about it.
No, I think that's a lot of people are feeling the same. I mean, Rich, is that how you're feeling as well, mate? That yes, it would be nice to get the win and I suppose for confidence, but it didn't work against QPR. We obviously lost 2 on the bounce after that. But are you just not really bothered? And what did you make to the actual performance?
Yeah, no, to be honest, I was more bothered just because my mate was giving me crap from the from the stands. But no, genuinely, I honestly did not care. I've never said this ever, but honestly, it's the first time just before that free kick, and my wife was doing my daughter's nails.
You're not going to say you hope they scored.
No. What I said was, so we sat there, and just before the free kick, I went, they're going to score from this. And then she went, oh, no, that'll be crap. And I went, to be honest, it's probably the better thing for us. So, again, it's not that I wanted us to lose, but actually I was like, it's the better thing for us to lose. I've always been like, no, you want to win every game. But actually, you guys made a really good point, actually, which was something I'd never really thought of or I'd certainly not considered. If you're in a relegation scrap and what game are you going to put more effort in? If you've got, if you're in a Premier League game and then the next game is at Wembley in a semi-final, you're not going to put it in. Don't get me wrong, you'll try, but like you say, you don't want to get injured. No one wants to be injured the day before, or the game before, Wembley Wembley game. So, while I did agree with. Where I do disagree with you slightly is the QPR one. I did agree with him putting out a much stronger team to win that one. I agree. Yeah. It didn't work. I agree with that. It didn't work because we got beat by Crystal Palace. But I thought, you know what, that 6-2 is going to really do our confidence some good. It obviously didn't. It didn't work. But yeah, against Man U, who cares? I was very much like, I'm not bothered.
Yeah, I mean, Manny. Obviously, we were doing the watch along the match for it, and I mean, you were quite impressed with the performance, weren't you? But you did also mention that, well, they playing up for the ITV cameras there. I mean, Friday night on the TV under the lights at Old Trafford, the game even 1%. Because that makes a difference.
Look, of course, it's inevitable. It's human nature, right? The cameras are on. Everybody's watching, whether it's the live Sky game and there's no other competing games. But it's Friday night. What that makes that slightly different, there's not a game on anywhere in Europe. So everybody who wants to watch a game of football on Friday night is now watching Leicester City. That is a slightly... You're aware of that. Of course, you're making sure your hair's been done properly. You're making sure, you're looking your best. You're looking your freshest. But there is an element of that. Having said that, I thought United were absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible United were. It was horrendous. We said before the game, Moyes will be on you. United will give you a chance to play. And when it came to the FA Cup, let's look back at it now with the virtue of hindsight and let's see how it went. We actually had a league game. The Palace game was 3 days after QPR. 3 days. So for me, I'm thinking, we've got another Premier League game in 3 days at home, which is absolutely huge. We've got QPR. Our second team should be competitive. And even if we win, we could get a big team in the next round, which doesn't help either. So what we found in that Palace game, I've mentioned this point too, is first half against Palace, we looked good. I think we went in 0-0 at half time. We played well. Second half, we faded. The guys were tired. They'd played 3 days before, and I think they probably played 3 days before that too. And so we have a particular.
On that, Matty?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just quickly. Yeah. I'll be honest and say I don't agree with that, because we've had half performances all season. So I don't think you can then say, oh, it's because of the FA Cup one. Like, if you look at the majority of the games this season, from Cooper to now Rude, we have good halves and bad halves. Like, we are the team of two halves this season. Just to put that point out there, that I don't.
There's a correlation between which half we fade in. So if we fade late in the second half and we've still got lots of old bodies on the pitch, that's normally because we've played recently. It's just things like recovery times. You know, we're a bit older than... Look, we know what it's like, Rich. If you play a game of football, you're not going to wake up the next morning feeling absolutely great, are you? You are going to be feeling it for days. It's extrapolate that to the professional side of it. We do have an average age of 32, the oldest team in the Premier League. That's official, by the way, the oldest squad in the Premier League. So I think it's natural. Joint, that's true. Joint with those other people who are also in. I think the other one is Southampton or Ipswich. One of those. Southampton, I think. So it's a distraction. What do we need an FA Cup run for? You know, Rich just made a point, but I think I made it on Fox's Den on Wednesday. If you are in a relegation battle, there's 4 games to go, and those 4 games mixed into those games is an FA Cup semi-final and maybe an FA Cup final, and maybe you're in a relegation battle. It's tight. Some of those players would be thinking, if I have a good game in the FA Cup, I'm in the shop window, so that even if we go down, I'm getting a move. You know, I'm out of the door. So I'm going to be thinking, forget the Premier League game. I don't really care if we get down. I'm out of here. What really is important is the cup game. And we cannot afford those kinds of distractions. So because you don't really want to go deep in the FA Cup, you know, then it becomes a question of, do individual players need game time, or is it a question of confidence? Well, it didn't help the confidence much because we got beat in our previous 2 games after we beat QPR. So then it becomes about game time. Like, what can we use this game to give people some game time who haven't had game time? So that is entirely how I would have looked at it. It's a chance to give Golding, or if Will Alves was still there, you know, give Mavididi a game to try and build some confidence. You know, Caleb Okoli, absolutely right. But anybody who's not been seeing game time, give them game time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a little bit disappointing for me on the lack of game time that Woyo Koulibaly's had as well since coming in. Because although no one's expecting a £3 million fullback to change the game for us, you know, it's someone that we knew we needed, a position we knew we needed, and we've barely seen him. I mean, I think obviously that was his biggest showing, wasn't it? The United game, was it 20 minutes in the end he played off the left? So. But yeah, I think there's signs there that he could be a good player for us, but we'll wait and see, especially in the championship.
Can I say one point on the transfer fee? Because we keep saying, whenever we talk about Woyo now, we mentioned £3 million or €3 million. Yeah. It was €3 million with 6 months left on his contract.
Yeah,
if he had 3 years left on his contract, his transfer fee is more like 10, 12. So actually, we don't have a €3 million fullback. We've got a 10, €12 million fullback on our hands. And I thought that was kind of reflected in how he played. Amad Diallo was pretty quiet at the weekend. Amad Diallo is a sensational footballer, on fire at the moment. And he kept him pretty quiet. So I think we don't have a €3 million. He's more like a 10.
It was a short cameo, but his one-on-one defending was really good. And he came on at a difficult time in the match because I actually think his best attributes, I watched a couple highlight videos, I'll be honest with you. That's all I really can go on. His best attributes seem to be where he could charge forward. And that's something we're seriously lacking. So,
yeah. I totally agree. We're all guilty of watching the highlights package on YouTube. By the way, the Danny Ward one is brilliant. The Danny Ward highlights package on YouTube, trust me. Rich, I know you've got to go in a few minutes, so let's move the topic on here now, and you can have your say. VAR. The reason that we aren't in the next, I suppose we could have got knocked out in the in extra time, but the reason we didn't make it to extra time was because of VAR. Well, because of a lack of VAR. I mean, I've seen a lot of talk online over the weekend about this. What's your take on it all, mate? Because I'll tell you what, start with the fact that it wasn't even it wasn't in place for this game, because I don't know what their reasoning is. Is it because not every ground in that round could have it? I don't know, but
Yeah, they've said they've done this for the last years, haven't they? They've said like they'll only put it in from I can't remember what round, but there's a certain round. It might be in the semis, I don't know. But right, just quickly, let's get one thing straight. It's not because there's no VAR; it's because the linesman made a shocking decision.
Of course,
you know what I mean? Like, that's not to, like I say, it's not that. I'm wondering whether VAR has just given these officials and linesmen, the excuse to allow things because they go, oh, well, it'll be fine, so then they become sloppy and they don't want to make decisions. And that was a poor decision. I know there's the picture doing the rounds. Obviously, it shows the leg in, so it's not as bad as it originally first looked, but it was still offside. And any official should see that. Any linesman should see that. So that was just a poor decision from the linesman. Regarding the VAR, I still think we'd have lost that game either way. And to be honest, it probably saved us extra time and then going to penalties. For me, I think their reasoning is that it's like you say, it's not fair because they can't put it in the grounds, and if Tranmere get to the to the whatever round, then we ain't gonna have VAR, and then it's not fair because then Liverpool game does have it. So I think they've said they're only putting it from Wembley, but yeah, it is what it is. Terrible decision from the linesman. I think they're the one that need held accountable, not the decision to not have VAR.
Yeah. I think there is something to be said though about what you said about maybe the linesmen have become a little bit sloppy, a little bit lazy with their decisions. I mean, Manny, you talked to me, mate, about this decision. I mean, we reacted to it live. Rich is right. It's not as bad as first. When the line is drawn, it doesn't look so bad, but still, he is on that other side of the pitch. Where the lino is. So, and I said at the time, mate, set pieces are the easiest time for linesmen to make these calls because the game is standing still, and then he's in the perfect line. He's got the perfect vision. So how bad was this decision for you, mate?
Absolute shocker. He's guessing. He's totally guessing. If you look at that picture there, you can see Harry Maguire at the top. Harry Maguire's massive. Like, how can he see beyond Harry Maguire what's going on? So it's a total guess. And if you're guessing and all you can see is Harry Maguire, how can he see any Leicester player being, from his point of view, to the right-hand side of Harry Maguire? Where is that blue shirt? Where is the leg? Where is anything? There's nothing he's seen. It's purely guessed. And I'm not saying he did it on purpose or it's corrupt or anything like that. But this is what used to happen. Like, for us old fogies who've been Fergies, slip of the tongue, for us old fogies who've been watching football for decades, if you go to Anfield, if you go to Stamford Bridge, if you go to Old Trafford, if you go to Highbury in the old days, you know what's going to happen. You're going to get a stinking decision. You're going to get a dodgy penalty. You're going to get a dodgy, a red card that isn't given. You're going to get a dodgy offside given. It happens all the time. Do you remember Erland Johnson diving against Matty Elliott in an FA Cup? I think it was quarter-final against Chelsea. The most stinking dive you've ever seen. The guy just gave a penalty. There wasn't a person within half a metre of him. This is why teams like smaller clubs like us should be absolutely screaming for VAR. Do you remember this? I think it was the first. I don't know if it was the first or the second season we got fifth. I think it was the COVID season. But I think Leicester City got more penalties that season than any other club in the Premier League. That would never happen without VAR.
Well, I think the biggest one is still Mark Albrighton fouling. Was it Griezmann?
Yeah.
I was in the stadium. I was in the stadium that day, and I saw there was a Vicente Calderon.
Cost us, obviously, that game because we were well in it, and then obviously he gave it as a penalty. VAR would have looked at that and gone, "No, it's a free kick. It was outside," and then that completely changes the complexity. So, look, gents, I've got to go, but it's as always, it's been a pleasure, and I shall speak to you all soon.
Nice one, mate, Rich. Thank you very much. Yeah, Michael, mate. I mean, I'll bring the image up one more time for you, mate. But what did you make to this at the time? How much of it is just a mistake? How much of it do you think is that they've become dependent on VAR? And how much potentially is that he bottled it because it was away at Old Trafford, thousands of Man United fans in the last minute of the game. If he'd called it offside and it wasn't, he'd have felt even worse because it was United.
Same as Manny. Don't think it was corrupt. It most probably is quite a hard call to make, as basically to outline everything Manny says. It's most probably quite a hard call to make, given you can't really see past Maguire. I'm kind of just an advocate for no VAR anyway, bar goal line technology and this line being put in place. I think there's too much nuance in football from that point of view. There's too much opinion based, but mistakes do happen. And particularly, we moaned at these players all game for the mistakes that they've made. This linesman has made one mistake, but they have 100% become dependent on this system to the point where they're almost just picking up a paycheck to run up and down a line, knowing that their decision doesn't actually mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Not just them, but the man in the middle as well, thinking the exact same. But yeah, I'd love to know your guys' opinions on VAR as a whole. Would you like it to be back to where it was originally, where you'd get the dodgy decisions, or would you like just some elements to be used, or how do you see that?
Manny, I'll take this first, mate. I do like VAR, but I think it is quite clear that how it's being used is not perfect, and there's a lot to go on from that. There's a lot of development to happen. I mean, I saw somebody say on social media over the weekend that VAR isn't the problem, it's the idiots who run it, who use it. You know what I mean? And I think that is probably a fair thing to say. What about you, Manny?
That's exactly where I am. I think VAR is absolutely brilliant. I've been screaming for it for years. There's no problem with VAR whatsoever. The problem is the human beings who are actually making those decisions and watching a decision 2-3 times and then still coming to the wrong conclusion. That is the problem. It's human error. It's got nothing to do with VAR. All VAR is, here's the evidence, take a look at it. Now, if a person can't review that evidence competently, then that's what we need to improve. We saw what happens without VAR, especially to clubs like Leicester in the last minute the other day. Like I said, VAR, absolutely love it. It should be there. Bring it. No, it's just a question of getting more competent people who can interpret what's going on. And there is a slight point of VAR is, when they really slow it down and they start to do it in slow motion, there is an element you have to see it at kind of full speed in its context. It's not just any little tap in the box and it's a penalty, for example. You really have to look at it in context. But these guys who are making the decisions, it's too often the wrong way. But having said that, I think there is some data out there which suggests that the quality of decisions have improved from 92 to 98. I find that a little bit hard to believe, but that's apparently what it is. So it is working. The point is that it could work even better still. Like, for example, semi-automatic offsides, which they have in those ones. Why don't we have that in the Premier League? It's just crazy we don't have that.
It's coming.
Well, I heard it was supposed to be coming at the start of this season, but the Premier League teams got together at the beginning of the season and said they didn't want it. Again.
Is it a ruling thing as well? Do the rules leave it not black and white and leave a bit of a grey area? Is that also an issue that we've got?
Oh, constantly revising the rules doesn't help. There's a new interpretation every summer, a new directive. So yes, but we eventually should get to a point where we're happy with what the rules are and people understand it. The handball rule has been played around with the last 3, 4, 5 years, and we're never really sure what's going on there. But let it calm down. I know it will take a bit of time still, but eventually it will all calm down. Get more competent people in the box making those decisions. And that is honestly a really good thing for, let's say, Leicester. Really good thing for Leicester. Been watching Leicester since 1991. The amount of stinking decisions you get against any team that was bigger than you was crazy. It would work sometimes in our favour. So when we're playing a smaller club, we might get a decision in our favour. But I just don't like this human bias. It should be, there's the evidence. Sometimes it is a little bit tricky to work out what the answer is. But most of the time, us fans, often the pundits on TV, we agree that's clear as day. And they still make a wrong decision. That's the people where we need to have accountability and getting better quality people in the VAR studio.
Yeah, I think the semi-automatic, it was voted for. The clubs did decide they want it. It was going to come in halfway through this season, but the Premier League said back in September that it's unlikely to come in this season because testing continues. So maybe, hopefully, the start of next season,
That's
when we're in the
nonsense.
Championship and we don't get to use it.
Do you guys like that, the semi-automatic offside thing? We've seen it in Europe. We saw it at the Euros. Do you guys like that?
I like it.
I didn't have an issue with it in the Euros, for example.
It's quite quick as well, isn't it? It's quite quick. Yeah. It's not faffing. None of this lines rubbish. I mean, the lines are another problem. Like, who draws the lines? Sometimes the lines look a bit wonky. The line isn't drawn in the right place. You know what? If you take it out of decision, put it into an AI, or give a, you know, the whatever the system is to determine that, the chance, fans aren't arguing anymore. We're not debating this stuff. We can focus back on the game. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I feel like the more technology that is introduced, it creates, you know, then there's a bigger gap then, isn't there, to the leagues below. You know, the football is different to the Championship. That's a problem for me. You know, a team like Luton, for example, that wasn't their game was delayed. Their first game in the Premier League was delayed because they had to like get all the technology and stuff implemented in the ground. What do you think to that, Michael? Because that is a problem for me, that you've got, let's say, football in the Premier League will be completely different to football in League One, for example. It's like a different sport sometimes.
It certainly showed up that way this weekend, right? Because the minute you go back to the original roots of what football is, issues like this happen, and it's very contentious. It's a hard one, right? I don't really think I have much of an opinion on it. I mean, because you can't implement VAR at like grassroots level; it just would never happen. So, but I do think it should be at the highest level of football, because we want to make sure that when we're dealing with millions and millions of pounds, that the outcome has to be correct. And I know they're not always getting it correct. So, but yeah, I don't have a massive opinion on it. It does need to be implemented, but how far down the tree you need to go to is up for debate. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Manny, you're a very modern thinking football fan, mate.
This is the Premier League. There's billions of pounds at stake. You know, for example, let's say it's last game of the season and one decision sends us down. Do you know how many corresponding people get fired at the club? You know, people in catering, people in accounting, people all over the place. These are people's livelihoods. We need to have maximum accuracy of decisions. It's beyond, you know, and it's also 100 million, 120 million to us, and potentially 5-10 years of oblivion. These things are so important. You can't just leave it to one human being who has a flash look at things to make a decision and expect that human being to make a good quality decision. It's an impossible job. I promise you, if any of us tried to do it, we get so much wrong. It's extremely difficult. You know, other sports, let's say, I'll say inferior sports, cricket, rugby, they use technology brilliantly. Does that mean we should only have Hawkeye and, you know, challenges to decisions that we do in Test cricket, but we don't have it in county cricket, so we should ban it? This is the elite level of sport. Yeah. At the elite level of sport, you need elite level of corresponding technology, elite level officials, as well as elite level players, coaches, and the rest of it. Everything has to be the best of the best. There's too much at stake.
Yeah, and let's finally touch on this. The decision to lead to the free kick that led to the goal. I mean, he gave a handball against James Justin when his arm was basically here. I mean, that was ridiculous as well, wasn't it, Michael?
It hit his hand, but as you say, his arm was in line with his body, and it was from quite close range as well. Again, if that got checked, then it most probably wouldn't have got given, I assume. Yeah, just a rolling amount of errors there that just led to our demise.
Yeah, and the fact I saw people blaming JJ for the goal, I'm like, what is wrong with
I'm JJ's biggest hater, but that wasn't his fault.
I've got another. I've got another idea for you. You know, not just VAR where you have to stop the game and go to a video official. You know, like he's always going to his ear and he's pointing to his ear and he's someone talking to him. You could easily have a video ref that is constantly trying to assist the referee where possible. So, you know, it's a throw in and the referee makes a stinker. He just goes, mate, that was wrong. I've seen it. Go the other way. If it's a little free kick, that was wrong. Perhaps, but all I'm trying to do is improve accuracy as much as possible. And do you know what? Look at it this way: that the referees need help. You know, as much help as you. If I was a ref, I would say, look, give me as much help as I can get, because if I make a clanger today, someone's going to be giving me death threats on X this weekend. Yeah. You know, and that's not what I want. You know, I don't want that. So give me the help. I don't want to get it wrong, but it's really, really hard. The Premier League's faster than ever. You know, these Premier League referees are nowhere near. How are you supposed to keep up with some of these players when they start moving? It's very, 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 very difficult. You know, they would look. Imagine if Jordan Ayew's a chugger, what's that going to make one of the referees trying to chase after him? I mean, so you've got to, you know, be reasonable with refs and say, look, mistakes are always going to happen, and people who think there weren't even more mistakes before than VAR. Just go back. Every weekend we were moaning about decisions. Referees are terrible. That wasn't offside. That should have been a red card. You know, every single week there would be an element of that. Listen to 606 and that would happen. So now it's magnified because it's VAR, but VAR is slowly getting better and better. And in this particular case, I actually think the linesman did us a favour. I know that's not a popular way of thinking. But extra time, our players were already getting tired. You saw Patson go down, Wilfred already gone down. We don't need the extra games. Let's just we left that place with our heads held high. We could scream that we got screwed. And you know, we should be feeling confident in how we played. Like, I'm happy. Wilf's back. I'm feeling better than I did after the Everton game, for example. So we take our loss, but I kind of interpret it as a win, and we move on.
Can I selfishly use this time just to ask one of you two if Vardy's injured or not? Because I hadn't seen anything on it, but he wasn't in the squad.
I think in the press conference, Ruud had mentioned that there were a couple knocks, but he didn't say who. And the fact that Vardy wasn't in the squad, it may be even Edouard potentially, he wasn't in the squad. Christensen wasn't in the squad. I would maybe say that he was one of them. But, I mean, that's how it is now, isn't it, boys? Vardy is just picking up these knocks that he never used to, and it might rule him out for 2-3 games, whatever it is. But, I mean, let's end on this question. You know, we've got Arsenal up next weekend. If Vardy isn't available, I mean, it's going to have to be Daka, isn't it, Manny?
We have one other option, and it's Patson Daka. And I wasn't. Yeah, I guess so. He cannot be as bad as he. I mean, he had a decent run a few years back for Palace, right? I think he won a bit of a goal scoring trend, but he must have an awful attitude, right? Didn't he turn down a move to Atlanta? You know, apparently he rejected the move there to sit and just pick up a paycheck from us.
Big paycheck.
Yeah, but I also saw, and I don't know if he was just trialing this. Maybe the Vardy incident's a bit. Maybe it's worse than first thought. Potentially, he gave Buonanotte like 10 minutes through the middle there. Yeah. He could potentially be an option, but he's not really a striker. But he does love to shoot from everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised if he gave some of the boys, particularly those ones who've been playing a lot. You know, it's a Friday night game. I think it's off from that Friday. It was 8 days to the Arsenal game. It kind of makes sense to maybe give players 4 or 5 days. You know, go to Dubai for 4 or 5 days, get in the sun, relax. I'm serious. You know, sometimes you need winter breaks the rest of Europe. You know, for us guys, it's probably not a bad time to say, like, have a few days. He doesn't need to train, Jamie Vardy. He's 38 years old. You know, he can have a few days resting, and he'll probably just go for a light jog on the beach anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised if reports came out that a few of the guys were given a bit of a break. Just get away from it. We'll come back and then attack the Arsenal game soon enough.
Well, we will find out. I think it's interesting what you said, Michael, as well. Yeah, Facundo did come on through the middle, didn't he, for a little bit there? So that might be one of the options. But then Ruud van Nistelrooy does seem to have a bee in his bonnet over Facundo Bueno. I think he hates him. It seems like he hates him. And he came on and slipped over a couple times as well. So he's got the wrong boots on still. But there we go. All right, then. Well, Michael, mate, I want to thank you for coming on today. It's very much appreciated. Obviously, like I said, I stumbled across your videos on YouTube. So let people know where they can find you and have a look.
Search for Michael Willoughby. That's a hard one to spell. Have your best shot at that. If you search Michael Willoughby Leicester, I've done a few breakdowns on there. I'm going to try and... Sort of my New Year's goal was to make a few football videos. And luckily for me, I got talent scouted from you guys. And hopefully I can come on in a few more weeks to discuss football with you guys again.
Yeah, for sure. 100%, mate. Absolutely. I think I don't know if you... Do you like post much on X about football? So yeah, so Willow 97. So there we go. So yeah, go check Michael out. He will be back on Blue City Glasses soon as well. That's for sure. Manny, mate, what's going on with you, mate? You're very busy all the time. So
Always stuff going on, but no, we'll be back this week, and we've got the call-in show to look forward to tomorrow, which is always good to see some of the regulars, and hopefully we'll see some new faces too. Then Tuesday, I think Anil's doing a match analysis, I believe, of the United game. Is that right?
Yes.
And then Wednesday's Foxes then, and we start building up towards Arsenal and think, how the hell are we going to get points against Arsenal? But I don't think it's impossible.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
I look forward to that analysis.
Yeah. We'll see. Last couple of comments here. If we go down, get Vardy another season, we'll have to wait and see. Elephant in the room from Costa. Have you ever thought that even after VAR, wrong decisions are made deliberately? I don't think so. And finally, Sean says we wouldn't be able to register him with a transfer embargo. Who? Vardy? No, of course. Vardy will be able to be registered. But do we want a 39-year-old Jamie Vardy in the Championship for another year?
Let's roll the dice for the 10th time and try and find a new striker.
Yeah,
he's going to be our striker at 40. I'm telling you, he's going to be our striker at 40. The 40. He will be. It's not
as it's going, mate. Yeah,
it doesn't sound as mad, by the way. It's not about the age; it's about the mileage. And remember, he started at 26, so he's still within 15 years of a football career, which you can kind of have.
Well, he didn't start at 26, did he? He was still playing
elite level.
He was having his ankles taken from a younger age than that, for sure.
Well, his ankle had something else on it as well at one point. But...
Yes, it did. It did indeed. Well, there we go. We'll have to just start getting, Elon Musk's Neuralink and stuff implanted in Jamie Vardy to keep him going a bit longer. So... Thank you, everybody, for watching. Very much appreciated. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to hit subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for the live call-in. We'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.